we're back in Photoshop and we're going to work on how to do color separations that can be used in foil. This technique is also very similar to the same kind of color separations that you'd use with a silkscreen process. So it is about using flat color that gets applied one layer of color on top of another. I'm going to do that by having my layers panel open, and I'm going to draw my layer down to this little duplicate so I can duplicate my layers. I'm going to hypothesize that I'll probably use 4 layers. I might use only 3. The bottom layer that is here, I'm going to call this like my master guide or my master color, so that I know that I'm not going to use this. This layer is going to be layer 1, so this will be my first layer that goes down. This is layer 2, so this would be the second in the process. This is, of course, then 3, and obviously then 4. And you see that I just deleted all my layers. We'll get those back very quickly. And do layer 4. All right. I'm going to go to my layer 1, which is going to have the most coverage on the layer, and I'm going to trim the eyeballs off all the other layers. Make sure I'm actually on this layer so that that is the layer that's highlighted and selected. And then I'm going to go into this. I'm going to fill the entire area with color, and the easiest way for me to do that is to go here and lock the transparent pixels. I will not use the paddle lock. The paddle lock makes it so that I cannot make any more changes on this layer, and that will defeat my purposes. So I'm going to go to lock this layer, and I'm going to go to edit and down to fill. And then under use, you can have be the foreground color, the background color, or black or gray. I'm going to use color. And once I'm in here, I can pick a color in the color picker, or I can go and pick a color that's already part of the drawing. So I'm going to go and pick maybe this blue color that's right there and say OK. And then when I say OK, the second time it actually will fill it all through the layer. Now I'm going to step onto layer 2 and turn the eyeball on and have this be the next layer that will have information on it. It's going to be this green color here. And I'm going to pick that green color up this way. So I'm going to go in here and say, okay, I need this green color. And I'm going to go and select everything that is similar to that. I might also go in and hold my shift key down. See, I get a little plus sign around my magic wand. And maybe add in just a little bit more of some of this information, so I have a few more color components that come in on top. So just hold the shift key down. You can also hold down, I believe it's the option key, to have it subtract selections out. And so I have all of this area selected right now. And I'm going to go and inverse my selection. So I'm going to go under select. We also could use the keyboard command and inverse this and hit delete on the keyboard. And so this is now the remaining information that I'm left with. I'm going to go up under my lock layer and go to fill. And I'm going to go and say that I want to fill this with color again, and grab this green color and say OK, and then have that fill in all of those selections. Now I'm going to go and do that same thing with the orange. And so I'll go in and select the orange, and also go in here and say that I want to select everything that's similar. I might want to expand this just a little bit more, just like I did with the last one, so I have a few more options to have some of this take on a little bit more information from the foil. And so I am thinking about, what is this process and what's the next step? So I'm holding down my shift key while I'm selecting some of these other areas. Once I have determined that the selection is fine, I'm going to go back up under my selection option, my menu, go to inverse, of course hit delete on the keyboard. I then deselect, and that's under select again, or I use the command key and D on my keyboard. Lock the transparent pixels, go in here and say, you know, I want to add some color in so test run this. I'm going to go and grab that color panel and then have this be filled with some orange so that I can start to build this back. Then I'm going to trim this eyeball off as well. The next layer is going to be like the key line, so this is similar to what happens with traditional poster making and old school lithography. And I'm going to grab all of this darker blue, and I might want to narrow my scope down. So where I start with a tolerance of 32 up here on my menu, that's default. I might take this down to 20, so it's a tighter pixel color range that's being picked up, so that this truly can try to do that, that key line for me and really pull the image together. So I've selected those blues, and I'm going to go and ask that again to select similar. And it selected all of those on this layer. And then I'm going to hold shift down and see if I can select the black as part of this too, and whether or not that will pick up the similar blacks within the options as well. And this is looking pretty good. Look at this stem piece down here. And now what I'm going to do is once again go under select and have this inverse and hit delete on the keyboard so that other elements are no longer part of this layer. Lock the transparent part, go under image or edit and tell it that I want to fill, and that I want to fill with a darker color. And this time I'm going to pick this darker blue. I'm going to say OK, and we'll have filled with the blue. Now if we turn our eyeballs on, you notice that we have now started to create our feather back. And as you play with this and do this with a more narrow range and to satisfy your own tastes and your vision, you're going to be able to determine how many layers do you need. And I like to use that the lower layer is a thicker layer and a more complete layer, so that if I would choose to only have 2 layers and not the full layers, that my registration doesn't have to be KISS registration, doesn't have to be super tight. If this wiggles a little, I still have this very much in play, and it's going to produce the image that I want. All right, we're going to end with this, move on to the next video where we make our separations black and white and are able to print those out of the Hewlett-Packard laser printer.